Hey, welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, everybody. Today, we are going to talk about using video to grow your business. Matthew Pierce from TechSmith is here with us. Thanks for being here, Matthew.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, do you go by Matthew or Matt?
Either one is fine. Not too
Okay.
picky.
Okay. So tell everybody about your work with TechSmith. And we know TechSmith, but we probably don't know that we know TechSmith.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the things that's really interesting about working for TechSmith is we make Camtasia and Snagit. So a lot of people probably know Camtasia as a screen recorder, video editor, and Snagit as a screen capture program. I like to
Yes.
say that we're like a 30-year-old startup because everyone knows our products, but no one knows us. And,
Who's behind the product? Okay.
absolutely. And I have the great privilege of working with them for the last 15 years. I've been an instructional designer creating training content for them. And now I do things like I get to speak at conferences and events, and I create training content. And I have a live stream and a podcast that I do for the company. So kind of got my hands in a lot of different things and helping to promote the ideas around using video and images to, whatever you're doing, whether you're creating training, you're speaking, or whatever it might be.
Awesome. Tell everybody the name of your podcast so we can put that in the show notes.
Yeah, it's the Visual Lounge,
The Visual
kind of a play
Lounge.
on we make visual products and then we get to get together and talk with people. It's
I
really
like
fun.
that. I like the name. That sounds like a place that I would like to hang out in the Visual Lounge. Okay. All right. So when it comes to speaking on camera, let's talk about that a little bit. Do you have like two or three key ideas that you think are really important, things that people may or may not have considered as much as they should have?
Yeah, I think one of the first things, and what happens a lot is people are saying, I'm going to do whatever, I'm going to now take whatever I'm doing and move it to camera. The thing they forget about is it's really not about the camera especially when you're making your first videos, it's really all about getting good audio. You want to have audio that is clear and it sounds good because we've actually run some studies. And one of the things that we found is that when the audio is bad, people are much more likely to stop watching your video, which that's the last thing you want to have
That's
happen.
interesting. Okay.
So,
So invest in a good mic.
absolutely. That's the first thing to invest in. A lot of people want to jump to the camera. Cameras are sexy, cameras are cool, but
Mm-hmm.
really the microphone is the key. Because if
Okay.
that's good, you can build on that later on. But even if you're just using a smartphone to record with, a
Mm-hmm.
microphone will make a world of difference. So that's the first thing I would say is don't actually focus on the camera, focus on what the audio sounds like for
Okay,
your
I
videos.
that's the first time I've really heard anybody really emphasizing the sound, how important the sound is. So figure out maybe a good, what would be a microphone that you might recommend, Matt?
I think it all depends on the type of video that you're making. If you're going to do like a podcast, you're sitting at your desk or something where you can just set it on your desk. I mean, kind of the ubiquitous microphone right now is the Blue Yeti. It's
Yeah,
relatively
that's
cheap, 150 bucks.
that's what I have as a Yeti. Yeah.
Yeah, it works great in almost every situation, but the one problem is it's not flexible. And if you're going to be on camera, you can't move around much,
Okay.
right? So if you're going to do a lot of video where you need to move or you're worried about the distance, get a lapel mic. Lapel mics are great. I'm actually using a shotgun microphone today because
Oh,
it gives me clear space
yeah.
so that I can speak to my camera. It's not in the way of my keyboard or anything else, and it's very directional. So the
Okay.
good news is that it's going to pick up this line right here. I've got it above me. But if I'm over to the left or the right, if I move off axis, it's going to not pick up very much. So that's also good because I've got 4 kids at home. I working from home now with the pandemic. It's like there's going to be noise, and it just helps
Yeah.
eliminate some of the extra noise that would otherwise get picked up.
I like that. I want to put in a plug for understanding the setup of your mic. I was not using my Yeti properly until I did a setup for something I was doing that somebody else was in charge of, and they showed me that I actually had it backwards. So
Mhm.
when I switched it around, got all the settings straight, I just set it and forget it because I don't want to touch it now. I'm too afraid. But so that's one thing I want to mention. Now, is there an option for something you could attach to your body? So I have a a Bluetooth mic that I can't remember who makes it, but it's that sexy one that you see a lot of professional speakers wearing on stage. It's got
Yep.
the kind of the beige and the little teeny tiny ball that kind of sits in front of you. I am always worried that if I'm moving around, that the Bluetooth is going to cut out somehow. Is that an accurate worry, Matt, or am I just being ridiculous?
Well, I don't have a ton of experience with Bluetooth microphones, but I
Mm.
mean, we're trusting those microphones oftentimes to be on stage, right? Like that's really a great
Right, that's true.
presentation mic. If you're just in your home or you're in an office space, the likelihood of it cutting out is probably pretty low. I mean,
Okay.
you've always got to test these things out. That's true of any microphone, right? Like you got to learn how it works, learn what the settings are, learn what the range is. But I think if you're doing something fairly simple setup, I mean, the nice thing about that is you can literally turn left and right. You
Yeah.
can move. You're
It's moving
free.
with you and you're never getting your mouth into the wrong position. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So audio is number one. What's number two when it comes to the three keys for capturing good video?
I think there's this relationship that you have to develop with the camera. Now, a lot of people don't like talking on camera because they feel awkward. They look at themselves, they start picking out all their blemishes and, oh gosh, I don't look good. Same thing can be said for people when they hear themselves with audio as well. But the thing is, remember there's someone behind that microphone or not behind the camera, and that
On
you
the
just
other
want to,
side, the audience.
your audience is there and you want to talk to them and you want to give them that performance that they
Mhm.
deserve. And the camera is going to say, kind of metaphorically, if we can, like, oh, you need to be a little bit more energetic. You need to
Okay.
talk through this a little bit more. You need to bring a little bit more to it because really the camera, it doesn't know any better. It's just going to capture what it sees. And so you have to
Mm.
present. Like you can't just
Be
be like,
aware of loving on the lens. Like, let's just let all that go right through and make sure that the energy. I remember Kendra Hall telling me that did a presentation that was recorded, pre recorded, 15 minutes, and it was going to play to 30,000 people. And she said she collapsed after she did the 15 minutes. She had put so much energy through that lens that she just ended up in a heap afterwards because it's a lot of energy and you really have to be aware of loving on that lens that you need to come right through and make sure that the audience feels your love. Okay, what else have you got for us when it comes to speaking on camera?
I'll say the other thing is that this is no different than anything else that your audience is already doing. Before you go speak to 30,000 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are going to put in the time to prepare and
You might
practice.
do a little rehearsal. You might do a little practice. Yes, indeed. Maybe do it a run through once or twice for 30,000 people. I'm being facetious
Absolutely.
there. Yes,
No,
absolutely.
it's so true because what happens, I've met a lot of people who think, oh, I can just
Wing it.
record.
I can wing it.
Yeah, no problem. Right.
Hmm.
But think about all the time that you put into like crafting your slide deck. Think about the message and how you're honing and refining those phrases.
Yeah.
You might be really able to take your kind of stage presentation and bring it to camera, but there might be things that are different or things that aren't going to play the same. Like
Yes.
because an audience isn't there. You don't have someone like responding to you. So you want to practice those things and you want to make sure you're working on your timing. You want to work on your enunciation. And, maybe your movement might be different too, because you might be used to walking and pacing across the stage with purpose. Whereas now, depending on your office, I'm in a small office, I'm sitting, and that's very different than how I present when I'm on stage. So you're going to have to take some time to kind of break down your presentation, look at it and say, what's actually going to work well for the camera? What's going to work well for the mic setup that I've got?
Right.
And then what's going to work well to convey this message to my audience, and just practice it and keep hitting on it. And don't be afraid to refine it. Do one video and then next video get better. Figure out
Beautiful.
what can I do a little bit differently.
And this isn't just a COVID conversation. People should be thinking about how to create. Speakers should be out speaking. Video should be a format that you are building. Like we should all have not just a YouTube channel, but playlists within that YouTube channel that somebody could go around. And I have to tell you, Matt, in our industry, it is not uncommon for a client to check you out via your social footprint and then also through your YouTube channel, or I don't know, I guess that's probably the most popular channel, maybe Instagram TV or something like that. But people want to see you speaking. You're a speaker. So
Right.
this is something that people they need to be doing, COVID or no COVID, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you build you're building your reel, right? And you're telling people, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what I'm like. This is the
Mhm.
experience you're going to get. But beyond that, just the opportunities that have afforded themselves because, now you don't have to travel, to an event to
Yeah.
give a great keynote presentation. You
Hmm.
can do that from almost anywhere. And so many events have gone virtual. And I imagine, we'll see what happens when things, somewhat return to normal. If we see a spike in-person events because people are so desperate for attention. But my guess is there are some organizations that are going to say this worked actually really well for us. And you want to be well prepared to have those opportunities. And so that's about, going to take you some time to get better on camera, to figure out that experience and how it's different than your stage experience. But if you're not comfortable kind of it from the initial point of like, yeah, I can look at a camera, I can speak to the camera, I can really reach through the camera to my audience, you're gonna struggle to really capture those opportunities. But I think it's just almost now par for the course that it's going to be have to be part of your repertoire to be able to make a video. And I'm not saying Hollywood quality videos or the
Hmm.
most fantastic videos, but have something that represents you and shows that you feel comfortable in that space.
Yeah, and I will put in a plug for sending out videos on the fly to clients who are thinking about hiring you. A 1 or 2 minute video could be the thing that closes the deal. So let's not overlook that as well. So no doubt in your from the seat that you sit in, Matt, you've seen maybe some cringeworthy things. What would you say is a cringeworthy item that you might uh, have people avoid?
Well, I think being on camera, being with making video, one of the biggest things is that people start off and it's like they get excited by all the features and tools and the cool things that video editors can do. And
Bells
all of a
and
sudden,
whistles, yes.
all the bells and whistles. It's like, now I'm going to use this transition and this transition and this, and I've got 12 transitions in my presentation. Isn't
Mhm.
that great?
Yeah.
No, we often do too much. We just try
Okay.
to pile it on because we think more is going to be better. It's going to be more exciting, more interesting. I mean, it's not just with the visuals. It's it's music, it's sound effects, and all this stuff. And we
Mhm.
make those kind of beginner mistakes because it's exciting. It
Right.
looks we're like, oh, that looks cool. Look what I did. But reality is, simple video works. And if you watch television or movies, you'll see that these principles are in play because they don't use a lot of crazy things. I mean, once in a while, there's a really something for spice, but usually it's just a cut and it's like or a change of an angle. That's about it. Like it's
Hmm.
really simple, but the messages are good, the story is good, everything else about it is good. So that's got to all that stuff has to be there, and then just make a really simple video that gets your message across in the way that you think represents you and your ideas.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so let's not try to do too much. Less might be more. Maybe you have a few bells, a few whistles, but not multiple. Okay, so let's imagine that we have a ton of video content in the can. How do we leverage this?
Absolutely. Well, you've already mentioned one of them is that you should have presence someplace, right, where people can go find you. We talk often about, if you're trying to get found, SEO, search engine optimization, or you want to have your page, your speaker page where people can go and look at those stuff. It's all really good, but you might consider, what's your place on YouTube? YouTube is a great place to find things, especially if you're trying to be known in certain niche kind of markets.
Yeah.
Go make sure you're putting video out there. Make sure people are finding content. Go be helpful in those platforms. I think that's one of my favorite things is like you obviously have a message that you're trying to get paid to
Yeah.
speak about, right? But there's other things that you can do. And I think some of those people that I know that speak professionally for a living, they're really great at this. They not only have their core messages that they'll gladly give for a fee, but they're often always trying to give other information and be helpful to other people. And that, just makes them more likable. It makes it seem like, wow, I'm getting a really good value. Not only because I get a speaker, I get someone who really cares about this topic and is willing to help in those ways. So I think that's
And
just
I want to add to that that let it all be information that fits nicely under your umbrella. So if you're sticking to your lane in terms of the content that you're delivering, just don't go too far off the beaten track so that people now know you for something completely different. I get where you're saying let's be helpful to our audience, but we want to make sure that it all lines up somehow back to what your central message is. Love that. What else?
I think the other thing that you're going to do is, as you're making these other pieces of content, think about how you can share these out. So like use it as a way to promote, right? Like, but be strategic about that. It doesn't have to, no one wants to get it like, I don't like cold messages in LinkedIn that are just like, hey, can I do X and X, or do you need this? And I'm like, oh gosh, I really don't. Why are you asking me this question? But think about how you can use that in your social feeds, and then you can repurpose these things. So let's say you make a video that's, I don't know, we'll say it's 10 minutes long, and it's not your primary topic that you're going to sell, but there's a section of that. Maybe it's 30 seconds clip. And you're just like, you know what? That was really meaningful. That was really a good idea. You can take that 30-second clip and turn it into 12 other pieces of content. So really think about how you can repurpose the videos that you are making. Beautiful. To, for LinkedIn posts, for so any social media. It could be a video clip, it could be text. You could, pull screen grabs from like have images of it, pair it up with other stuff. And you also, from one piece of content, you're able to really create multiple. So one of we have kind of for our podcast, we have two things that we do. It's all video recorded. So it's got video components. I've been taking little snippets of things I said, like, actually sounded kind of smart there. Yeah. And I've been putting that on LinkedIn and Twitter, and just as a way to say like, hey, we have this to offer you.
Yeah, we did more. This show. Here's a link to more, but here's a little snippet. Doesn't that intrigue you? I would be interested in that. Yeah, that's cool.
Absolutely. And I think speakers can do this. They know their message. They know the parts, like they're not too worried about like, oh, that's the secret sauce, I can't give that away.
Right.
But that message, like you said, you can take your thread of thought of like, this is my lane, and start pulling those pieces in snippets. And I think, here's the thing. I've been to people who I've heard them speak multiple times. It's not like I'm like, oh gosh, they gave that away already. Because now I get full context when I hear them speak. You're like,
oh, I'm hearing it a second time and I'm getting something different. And I really, we have a saying over here at the Wealthy Speakers School that decisions based in fear are typically wrong. Don't ever worry about giving away your content, your stories, your speech. Those are often the things that will bring you the most business. When people hear that amazing story that you tell, that might be the path to them coming to see you. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about YouTube. We can also repurpose and distribute in lots of different social channels. Putting video up on LinkedIn, do you recommend doing that on a regular basis, and maybe Instagram television?
For LinkedIn, yes. I think it's a great way to distinguish yourself. I think we're still at the kind of the early phase of people really using a lot of video on LinkedIn. I'm seeing it more. It's growing. But I do think it still sets you apart, especially if it's the video that you've created. You're not just reposting someone else's content. Okay. But I like actually creating very specific videos for LinkedIn even. So maybe it's not what I'm repurposing.
Do you think they should be maximum?
That's a great question. I think LinkedIn, you're still going to want to be short. 1 to 2 minutes is probably good, because people are really, they probably aren't looking for that thing specifically. They're just scrolling through and you want to catch their attention. Right. I don't think that's the only answer. I think you can make longer content, but I would probably rather you put 1 to 2 minutes on LinkedIn. And if I'm really interested, allow me to go watch that someplace else. So maybe put that link in the comments. Nice. But I do think there's lots of opportunities. And it doesn't have to be you on camera all the time either. That's the other thing I'll say is, like, if you've got slides or screen content, like you can do voiceover over those and still make a really great point. If you don't want to go through the process right then of, pulling out your camera,
combing setting your hair.
I wish I had that problem combing my hair.
Sorry,
But
Matt.
no, but absolutely. Like there's days I'm like, I'm in a t-shirt today, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
maybe I should have dressed up a little bit if that's the message I'm kind of trying to convey. Now, I work
right,
in a
right.
software
I
company.
love
It's
the idea of
t-shirts.
screen. I hadn't really even thought about doing a lot. So maybe we have one slide and we just do a little voiceover over that slide. Um, One quick question back to what we were just talking about on LinkedIn. What do you think? Closed captions or subtitles or no subtitles?
Yeah, I'm a fan of doing closed caption just for accessibility purposes. I think
Yeah,
it,
and if I want to watch your video without actually hearing it, which is often, people are in bed scrolling through their feed or something like that. They don't want to wake up the partner. I think closed captions are a great thing, don't you think? I think using them all the time is probably good. All right, we got some good ideas there. I really liked, and of course, this is where your company comes into play. Camtasia, Snagit. I bet you any money we are all not using Snagit to the degree that we could. Is there a Chrome plugin for Snagit?
there's not a Chrome plugin. It's
Okay.
desktop. It goes Mac and Windows.
Oh, okay. So you are working. I'm a Mac girl, so that's good to know. And I used to use Snagit a lot, and really, I do, Matt, a ton of screen captures. So I really need to have this on my. Tell everybody about where they could go to find out more information about these, and also about the academy that you run that helps people use all these tools better.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about Snagit and Camtasia, the easiest way is just either search for Snagit or Camtasia or go to TechSmith. That's TechSmith.com.
All
You can
right.
find free trials. We got 30-day free trials that you can give those a go and see if they're going to work for you. Highly recommend them. I use them all the time. I actually use Snagit all the time in building my presentations.
Yes,
Just
exactly. That would be exactly when I would need it so much. That's great.
Absolutely makes it super easy, and we have a lot of free tutorials that just talk about the products. But we also have the TechSmith Academy, which is a free learning platform where we teach about skills around creating images and videos. So things like how to write a script, how to
Mm,
create a storyboard. Which, if you're creating presentations, maybe you're already kind of used to that concept of like thinking about how to structure your message.
yeah.
How to record audio in your environment. With all of us working home, that's a big deal. Like, how do I get decent audio when I've got hard walls and no foam? I mean, I don't have a recording booth or anything like that.
Yeah.
We also have a whole course that's focused on screen recording. So if that idea of like recording your PowerPoint or recording screen content, is interesting, it's not going to teach you Camtasia, but we focus on the Academy. Again, it's free, on the
Mm,
kind of fundamental skills that anyone would need to be successful at creating videos and images.
beautiful. Well, Matt, you've given us some really good ideas here and things to be thinking about when it comes to video. If somebody wants to get in touch with you personally, where's the best place for them to reach out? Do you want them to connect with you on LinkedIn, or how would they do that?
Yeah, I'm available on a lot of social platforms. So LinkedIn is a good one. You can look for Matthew R. Pierce. That's, if you put in the name at the end, that's what it is. But
Okay.
you can just search for Matt Pierce TechSmith. I'm on Twitter as Pierce MR. That's PIERCEMR. And frankly, if someone really wants to get a hold of me, you can email me at m.pierce@techsmith.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for your time today, Matt. Most appreciated. And for those of you who are listening in, I hope we will see you again very soon. We'll see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now, everyone.